There is one thing you have never been able to schedule around. Never been able to optimize, delegate, or defer. One appointment that has been on your calendar since the day you arrived, with no time written next to it. Just the date, somewhere, certain. This is the uncarved. We have built an entire civilization around not thinking about this. Not out of stupidity, out of something older. The psychologist Irvin Yalom, who spent 50 years sitting with people at the end of their lives, observed something that took him years to fully accept. Most of the suffering he witnessed was not caused by what people feared. It was caused by what they had spent their lives not doing because they were too afraid to remember that time was finite. The unlived life. Not the dramatic version, not the person who never left their town or never took the risk. The quiet version. The person who kept waiting for the right moment to say the thing that mattered, to stop doing the thing that didn't, to become, slowly, without forcing, more honest about what they actually wanted from the time they had. Most people never get there. Not because they ran out of time, because they forgot they were running out of time at all. There is a story from the Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi that has no equivalent in Western thought. When his wife died, his friend found him sitting on the ground, singing. Not weeping, not silent with grief, singing. His friend was disturbed. He said, "You lived with her, raised children together, grew old together. That you don't grieve is bad enough, but singing? Is that not too much?" And Zhuangzi said, "When she first died, do you think I didn't grieve? But I looked back to her beginning, before she was born, before she had a body, before she had breath. Mixed among the formless, something altered, and there was breath. That breath altered, and there was a body. That body altered, and there was life. Now it has altered again. She has gone back to where she came from. It is like the turning of the seasons. She is resting now in the great house. If I were to weep and wail, it would show I don't understand the nature of things. So I stopped. This is not detachment. It is not coldness. It is not the suppression of grief. It is something far more difficult and far more radical. It is the recognition that life and death are not opposites. They are one movement, the same wave, rising and returning. And when Zhuangzi understood that, not as philosophy, but as something felt, something known in the body, his relationship to his own life changed completely. Because if death is not the enemy, then time is not the enemy either. And if time is not the enemy, you can stop fighting it and start inhabiting it. "2,000 years ago, on the other side of the world, a Roman emperor was writing to himself. Not for publication, not for posterity, just writing. Trying to stay honest with himself about how he was living. Marcus Aurelius returned to one theme more than almost any other in his private journals. Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. Not as a morbid obsession, as a corrective. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. And again, think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." What he understood, and what took him a lifetime of practice to apply, is that the awareness of death is not a weight, it is a filter. When you remember that time is finite, the things that don't matter start to lose their grip. The argument that has been running for 3 years, does it still feel urgent? The approval you've been working so hard to earn, from whom? For what? The version of yourself you've been performing for an audience that may not even be watching. How much longer do you want to keep doing that? Death does not ask these questions to be cruel. It asks them because they are the only questions that have always mattered. Here is what Yalom found in his decades of work with people confronting mortality. When someone genuinely reckons with the fact that their time is limited, not abstractly, not philosophically, but actually, physically, in the body, something reorganizes. Trivial concerns drop away. Not through effort, through irrelevance. Relationships either deepen or clarify themselves as unnecessary. There is no longer patience for the performance, the pretense, the half-present conversation. And perhaps most strikingly, the fear of living diminishes. Not the fear of dying, the fear of living. The fear of saying the thing, of taking the direction, of becoming, slowly, more honest about what you actually want from the time you have. That fear, which for most people is far more present than any fear of death, loses its power when death is no longer something you're looking away from. The Tao Te Ching returns to one image across many chapters. Returning to the root. Lao Tzu writes, returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called returning to one's destiny. Not as resignation, not as giving up, as recognition. Every living thing moves toward its completion. The tree does not resist autumn. The river does not argue with the sea. And somewhere in you, underneath the plans, the ambitions, the carefully maintained story of who you are and where you're going. There is something that already knows this. Something that has never been afraid of the return. Only the part of you that was constructed, the adaptations, the performance, the version of yourself built to navigate other people's expectations. Only that part is afraid of ending. Because what you actually are, underneath all of that, does not end the way a performance ends. It simply returns. Today, I'd like to leave you with a question. Not a meditation, not a ritual, just one question to carry into your day. At some point today, in a quiet moment or in the middle of something ordinary, ask yourself, if I knew with certainty that my time was more limited than I assume, what would I stop pretending doesn't matter to me? Don't reach for the dramatic answer. Don't think about bucket lists or grand gestures. The honest answer is usually smaller than that. A conversation you've been postponing, a direction you've been afraid to take, a version of yourself you've been waiting for the right moment to become. The right moment is a fiction. There is only this one. The awareness of death is not a shadow over life. It is the thing that gives life its edges. Without edges, everything is shapeless. Without limits, nothing has weight. The appointment you can't reschedule is not your enemy. It is the only thing that has ever been honest with you about how much this moment actually matters. You don't need to think about death every day. You need to think about it enough to stop sleepwalking through the life you actually have. That is all Memento Mori has ever asked. Not grief, not fear, just wakefulness. Until next time, move slowly. That is enough.